Trek suspension just marketing BS? Kind of, but let me explain. Trek calls this suspension design their ABP suspension layout. And when it first came out, they were super hard on the marketing, saying this was a super unique and revolutionary design that separated braking forces from suspension movement, meaning that the suspension remains relatively active even under heavy braking. And while none of this is inherently wrong, it's not as groundbreaking or unique of a design as Trek would have you think. Let's start by looking at my bike, a 2018 Trek Remedy.
What you can see right off the bat is its similarity to a linkage-driven single pivot, like I talked about in my last video. It has the same looking linkage and a solid connection from the rear axle to the singular main pivot, which were the two biggest identifiers of a linkage-driven single pivot. So what makes this different? Well, it's quite simple. Trek just placed a pivot point concentric with the rear axle. Concentric meaning two or more circles sharing the same center. Their reason being that the seat stay rotates less around the rotor than the chainstay, thus being advantageous to mount the brake caliper there. Doing this reduces anti-rise, or the resistance to movement of the suspension due to braking, over a traditional linkage-driven single pivot. So no, it's not all marketing BS. However, it's really just a linkage-driven single pivot with the seat stay pivot moved to be concentric with the rear axle. Trek calls this ABP, but other brands just call it split pivot or concentric suspension layout. So, despite the initial marketing, it's not a design unique to Trek in any way. Other great examples of this same suspension design is the Da Vinci Troy and the Orbea Rayon, both the old design and the new design. The advantage of this design? Well, it delivers the simplicity and the slightly progressive nature of a linkage-driven single pivot, but has anti-rise characteristics closer to that of a horsed link. And that's all there is to it. So which suspension design layout should I do next?